We'll do it live. Fuck it.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Dynasty Dogs podcast. This apparently is just going on to Twitter live. I was just notated that we could not be going on live on YouTube for some reason.
You just notated?
It just shot up on my screen. It was saying it will not be going live to YouTube. So unfortunately, we will not be able to see any comments. But, it's a typical Dynasty Dogs episode. We're getting off on the wrong foot here. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to my dog's favorite podcast, the Dynasty Dogs. Next, in the doghouse with me after a long hiatus is my good friend, Rich McIntyre. Rich, how are you?
What's going on, buddy?
How's it going tonight? Rich?
Lovely.
We will not be here next week. Next week is Thanksgiving. Rich, are you a Thanksgiving fan? Because I'm hearing lately that a lot of people are not big Thanksgiving fans. So
absolutely. Love me the turkey.
Yeah, I
love the turkey.
Okay, we probably didn't need that. I've heard a lot of people say that they're not big fans of turkey or Thanksgiving in general. I can't believe that. To be honest, I feel like that's one of the least or the easiest of the main holidays, if that makes sense.
What do you mean the easiest of the main holidays?
Because like Christmas, I feel like there's so much going on. Like you need to go to this.
Go tell that to everyone who's cooking for 19 hours.
True, good point. I mean, I did that.
I wouldn't want to do that shit.
I did that when Des had COVID, and I had to cook by myself while she was...
Yeah, didn't you forget to put the insert inside of the crock pot and you just threw it into the fucking crock pot?
No, that was a different incident 2 years before that. But yeah, that also happened. The crock pot incident, as we call it in my household. Toasted some pork chops, pretty toasty. So those were not good. Anyway, we have some major news and notes tonight. We're going to be doing that bite segment. We're going to talk some Dynasty topics, and we're going to do a versus segment. Who would we prefer out of these two players? And then we're going to talk about two profiles for the 2025 class that we think are coming out. Both these guys are seniors, so they should be in RJ Harvey and Devin Neal. Let's start with Devin. I don't know why Tim Allen had to make a comment in there, but there he is. Rich, let's get into it's going off the rails. I got things popping up on my screen. I couldn't even read. I was so sidetracked. Anyway, let's get into that bite segment. Rich, Daniel Jones was benched for Tommy DeVito and then subsequently cut out of nowhere.
You mean free safety, Daniel Jones?
Yeah, when he was playing scout safety, and then all of a sudden they just decided to cut him.
Dude, they tell me that, I'd be like, you can fucking scout these nuts. I'm out of here, dude. Yeah, I read that he requested his release, which I mean, it's no shock.
I didn't see that anywhere. It's possible. I'm sure he was probably frustrated and probably.
Yeah, no, I read it. It was a statement by what's his nuts, the owner, the guy who graciously gave us Saquon, the guy who hasn't slept. I think he put that out there, and he said it was like a mutual decision or something.
Which is surprising because they chose to pay Daniel Jones instead of paying Saquon Barkley and then releasing him. I know that there was some cap hit that they avoided by getting rid of him before, I think, the June deadline or something like that. But I was very surprised to see this happen in the middle of the season.
I think they're paying him the rest.
Well, I'm sure they have.
And then whoever picks him up is going to have to pay the minimum. But yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know, which team is worse ran in the city of New York or the state of New Jersey, whatever you want to describe them as. But between the Jets and the Giants, they just seem to fumble every single thing. I'm sure we'll get into the Jets. I'm sure, because that's just a saucy nugget right there. But
well, the funny thing is, you mentioned that, is Stephen A. Smith kind of talked about that, and he said the only reason the Giants don't get ridiculed as much is because the Jets are a worse run organization because they haven't won a playoff game in X amount of years.
Right? Well, I don't even know. Yeah, but I mean, besides that,
Super Bowls, our lifetime. So, I mean, we're going back years now, and it's a different organization at this point, but, the Jets are a much worse organization right now because Aaron Rodgers is running everything.
Right.
But
yeah, we'll get into that.
Do you think Daniel Jones gets picked up anywhere? Do you think he
Yeah, he's
just sits
definitely.
there?
No, I think he plays somewhere. I mean, I don't think he plays unless there's an injury on the team. But
Well, there is. We're going to get to that in a second. Uh, Brock Purdy is out this week.
yeah,
I mean, and they announced him out early. So is there a possibility he misses multiple weeks now? Who knows? Usually, when you get these kind of injuries that are, announced on Thursday, Friday, it's kind of like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe this is a
well,
multi-week thing. So,
don't say that. Don't say that because Devontae Smith kind of announced this today too.
well, no,
Um,
Devontae hadn't been practicing for a few days.
yeah,
So it's like I don't remember seeing Brock Purdy having any kind of announcement before this, and it's interesting situation they have there. And then the Dallas Cowboys could obviously use a quarterback, but it's just they just paid Dak all that money, but it would be very Dallas to sign him and say, well, we need to bring in competition. We need to stay. I almost did a Jerry Jones impersonation there. I was trying not to.
yeah, don't
We
do
need to
that.
stay relevant. Jerry loves to try to bring in the big fish, or if you want to call Daniel
And
Jones a big fish.
it's funny because you say that, and then like I did get an update like a little bit ago, sent to me from like Bleacher Report that they're quote not interested in him. So like, of course, everyone's thinking the same thing. I guess because they're playing. I think they're playing the Giants on
They are on
Thanksgiving. So
Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That
that's
Hey,
just
he could
yeah.
play scout team for them against the Giants instead of being the scout team for the scout safety for the Giants. He could be the scout
If
against the
only
Giants.
if only they had 10-day contracts in the NFL just to play that and be like, see ya.
Do you see anywhere else where this could, before we can move on to the next thing, do you see anywhere that could pick him up besides the couple mentioned places?
Um, I don't know. Maybe Seattle. I can see because
Yeah,
really, how long does Geno Smith have? Um,
yeah. See, the thing is, Geno's been playing well enough for them to be like second in their division right now.
sure, but I mean, how long? How much more? Is he? How much longer is he going to be there?
True.
Um, Oakland obviously is always
That
a
actually
pick
could
for a
happen. I
quarterback
could see that
if
one.
they could.
Yeah.
Who would if he went to or if he went to Las Vegas, if they found something in him, keep that top pick for some other position, trade it away. If you think you got something in Daniel Jones, I mean, now that's really really short of a time frame. We got 7 games left, so
I actually wouldn't hate that, to be honest with you. From a fantasy perspective,
yeah.
that actually might not be that bad. I mean, I would
Hmm.
say he's an upgrade over Gardner Minshew. Unfortunately, I don't think you're as good as Daniel Jones at this point and Aiden O'Connell,
Hmm.
your alter ego. Um, I don't think he's as good as Daniel Jones. So
Hmm.
that's actually a good thought process there. Maybe they could pick him up and maybe use that first round pick elsewhere to bring in more talent to that
Yeah,
team.
because you could easily flip something around out there. With Antonio Pierce, a young quarterback who was in a shitty situation in New York. So
Yeah, it's a
because I
very
don't think he's
interesting
bad.
thought.
I don't think he's bad at all. I just think he's kind of got like a
Are
little
you
bit of
saying that
issues
because
upstairs. What?
Are you saying that because we've got to face him twice a year and we kind of just bullied him around a little bit? But
Yeah.
um,
Um. Yeah, I don't know.
the next thing we got here, Brock Purdy again, like I
The
mentioned, is out.
Giants.
Brandon Allen.
They just seem to fall.
Why are you talking?
I wanted
Why
to see
is
what it would look like when he clicked on it.
you just wanted to hear
It
yourself
was like
talk?
when you look at your phone through a mirror and like you just see the
I just
endlessness.
I felt Richception there for a second. I was hearing Rich inside of Rich there for a second.
Oh,
Yeah, Brock
follows
Purdy is
that one.
out, like I mentioned. Yeah. Brandon Allen is expected to start. That team is starting to fall apart because I believe Nick Bosa is also out this week. Um,
Couldn't have
they're
happened
dead in
to
the
a nicer
water.
group of guys, dude. And
They're
isn't
dead
it
in the water.
funny? Isn't it funny that the injuries they announced? Okay, so they announced today. They announced it today or yesterday that Brock Purdy's
Brock
not
Purdy
playing.
today.
So they announced that today early that he's not playing, but they were like, CMC, you know what? Up until like we're playing in 2 hours, we're gonna tell him and like in like an hour 59 that you're not playing.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like that's another shit show that I love to
Uh,
watch.
so this is Marshawn Lloyd and the series of unfortunate events. A spinoff of Lemony Snicket's of series of unfortunate events. He comes off IR and then in the same day gets an appendicitis and has to go into the PUP list. He comes off IR, his appendix bursts, and he has to go to the hospital and now has to recover from that.
Well,
Um,
as two people who have had our appendixes removed, we know how this guy feels.
yeah,
It's
this
a
sucks. This is awful.
oh Nelly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sucks.
It really does suck because like they are running Josh Jacobs essentially into the ground because they don't have any other options in the running back room. And you and I both really liked Marshawn Lloyd. Um, as a rebuilding team who might have multiple picks that you could kind of throw around. You don't obviously he's not going to acquire you any points this season because he's probably going to be done for the season at this rate. Um, and he's not going to acquire you anything, and you have multiple picks. Would you take a flyer on him just to see what he does next year?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I'm always trying to take young running backs and see what I can do with them. It would have to be for next to nothing, and it would have to be more. I'd have to be more impressed by. I guess you don't have anything to base it off of in his NFL, film. I'd have to
Yeah,
be more impressed by him than anybody who's coming out in this running back class. Which, excuse me, this running back class is deep. So
yeah. We're going to talk about two guys here later in a little bit, but would you throw like a third out there for him, maybe like a mid to late third, if you have a
I'd
multitude of picks?
probably fourth.
I don't know if that gets it done because you essentially like because that team is going to look at it as I drafted him roughly in the third round.
Sure.
Uh, I'm not going to take the hit for a guy we haven't seen anything on.
I think it's kind of going out like I'm not going to go out of my way to try to get him. Like if I
Yeah,
throw it out there, I'll throw a wet noodle at the wall, see if it sticks. But
mhm.
if
Yeah.
not, then it is what it is.
I think with the teams that I have that have multiple picks that are rebuilding, I might just take a flyer on him. See if that team wants to re-roll a third into another player.
Mm,
Um, Isaiah Pacheco is supposed to be back this week. He's going to be out again. Kareem Hunt gets another week. This is the first week we're going to see Jonathan Brooks. He's back. Do you think we
mm.
get anything out of Jonathan Brooks this week, or is it just kind of going to be like here's your 7-8 carry, you're welcome to the NFL, maybe a few catches type of thing?
I don't know because with Hubbard re-signing and signing the extension or whatever, I
Mhm.
feel like that kind of changes the landscape of how it's going to go. I mean, I hope Miles Sanders has his bags packed and everything's
He's
ready to
out.
go.
He's
Oh
out.
yeah, Yeah, he's done there. He's
Mhm.
he's seen his time there.
He's also hurt too. Remember, he had to get carted out last week.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he had to get carted out. They had
Jesus,
to put a soft cast on right away. It was ugly.
what happened? Where?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it wasn't pretty, to be
Jesus.
honest with you. So I do think Brooks does get involved. I don't think it's going
Yeah.
to be like a major role by any stretch of the imagination. But if he gets 10 touches, 12 touches his first game, this is going to be a game where they play Kansas City, so they're going to have to try to put up all the points they can or play some kind of catch up. Maybe they're blown out early and
Right.
Brooks comes in later, kind of starts getting touches that way. It could definitely happen. But Juba Hubbard, like you mentioned, and we've talked about here for sure, we talked about him last week with Ben McCown, has been a very pleasant surprise. This is a
Mm-hmm.
guy who's just been a very consistent back since he come in the league. And he's done well, and he's earned himself a contract. So we'll see what happens there with him. Um, Mike Evans is back this week, thank goodness, for my Scott Fishbowl roster. Uh, he will be the main target, I would imagine, in Tampa Bay.
And you're trading first round picks for him. Don't go over that one.
Well, I got Josh Jacobs too. Don't forget that.
Ooh. Ooh.
Hey, I needed running back depth. I got a guy who can help me win now, Mike Evans and Josh Jacobs. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, but you gave up your boy.
DJ Moore. Yeah, that hurt. But DJ Moore right now is not a guy who could really help me win at this point.
More like
that
DJ Less.
less is more, I guess. Mike Evans allegedly, or I think somebody put the math out there, has to get about 95 yards the rest of the way to get his 1,000-yard mark. You think he hits it?
100%.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to ever bet against Mike Evans again because I've bit that bullet once. I do think he hits it, especially with a guy like Baker Mayfield, who is going to put the ball out there.
It's just he just yeets it down the field every single game.
For sure. Next kind of notes that I have here is Alexander Madison and your boy Zamir White are both doubtful this week. We might see Dylan Labe get some run. Amir Abdullah is another guy they have. If you can get some waiver claims out of either one of those two, you might as well go give it a shot, right? Because what do you have to
Yeah.
lose? You just lost 2 running backs in one shot. Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of teams probably have Zamir White and
Mhm.
Alexander Madison as his handcuff, and now they just lost both. So
Who's been such a disappointment as
yeah,
Amir White. It's like
surprisingly,
because
Madison's look better too, which is crazy.
yeah, yeah, that was the guy was the guy I was like high on in the in earlier previous episodes, but it's like, dude, he hasn't done dick. He stinks.
He's been bad. He's been
Well,
bad.
is it like? Well, I mean, it can't be the quarterback. You're running the fucking football, so
Yeah, for sure.
it's like I can't blame it on him.
Dak Prescott headed to IR, which we kind of imagined at this point. Devontae Smith, hamstring injury, is out this week. And hamstring injuries have just been destroying players this year to an extent like I feel like I haven't seen. So hopefully this isn't a multi-week thing. But the Eagles go into the Rams this week, who are starting to catch a little bit of fire on offense. This could be a little bit, and then they have Baltimore next week, if I'm not mistaken, after this week. So this could be a tough matchup for them. What do you think? Without Devontae?
This was going to be well, I mean, I shouldn't say it's going to be a test. What do I think about Devontae? I was going into the whole game.
Well, a little bit of both, like the loss of Devontae and how it affects the Eagles against a team like the Rams, who are getting a little hot, especially on offense.
I mean, the Eagles, as far as the Eagles on offense anyway, we kind of figured out that it's pretty much a lot of the run games that we've won. It's a lot of run game and heavy on great defensive play. So, I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't yeeting the ball down the field much. He's thrown for what 200 and change. He's having good games and he's doing what he needs to do, but it's primarily around the run game. So I'm not too worried about that. They do got that. Who's that rookie they got? That edge rookie
Johnny
for
Wilson.
the Rams.
Oh no, the Rams.
Johnny Verse. Yeah, he's so I was looking today at because I think Quinyon Mitchell gets a pick this game. So it's like them two neck and neck for rookie of the year. But I think it's going to be heavy run game anyway. AJ is going to eat, obviously. And this is just another test for Quinyon with Puka out there, Cooper Kupp. So it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun back and forth game. High scoring, I think. But I think, obviously, the Eagles win. And just keep it rolling. But I mean, the loss of Smith, it sucks.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Because he does, like, that dude is probably one of the best route runners in football, one of the most underrated wide receivers in football. He'd be a number one on a lot of other football teams. It just so happens we have A.J. Brown, too.
Yeah.
So, two other injuries I got real quick. Ferguson's going to be out this week for the Cowboys, concussion. And then you have Tajay Spears, who unfortunately, like Marshawn Lloyd, who we both liked, both of those guys just can't stay healthy as well. Tajay Spears has a concussion. I really did think he'd beat out Tony Pollard because in my heart of hearts, when Tajay's healthy, I do think he's a better running back when he's healthy. And it's just he hasn't hit that yet.
When the fuck is that?
Yeah,
dude. Everyone hates on Tony Pollard, dude. He gives me a solid, besides this week, like a solid 18 every week. Like I can count on 18 from him. Everyone's like, oh, he's done because he moved on from the Cowboys, dude. He's been solid for me.
You know what's funny is that offense has started to look better. Will Levis is back again. And did you see Will Levis's comment? He's like, I'm not throwing from my knees or from my chest anymore or something like that. I was like, I guess that's true. Yeah, he's taking a little bit of accountability there. Let's get into our little bit of dynasty topics here. Rich, you remember a couple years ago when we watched wrestling together and there was a guy named Bo Dallas, who's now no longer Bo Dallas. He's in the Y at 6, but all you got to do is BOlieve. And let's talk about Bo Nix, Rich. A guy coming out of this draft class that you and I both admittedly did not like. I don't want to say that because that's a little harsh. We weren't fans of Bo Nix. We both thought
it's not that it's nothing personal. I didn't like it. It's not like I didn't like it personally, dude.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to rephrase it. I was like, oh, it sounds like we hated the dude personally for some reason.
Can't stand this fucking guy.
We just weren't big fans of his game. We thought that the first round capital for him, especially early first, was a little high. But right now he's 65.5% completion percentage, 2,275 yards, 14 TDs, 6 INTs. And he carried the ball, which shocks me because I didn't really see much of that. in
And
college.
one receiving TD BT dubs.
True, that I forgot to notate that, but 63 carries, 295 yards, and 4 TDs on the ground. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
Rich, he is quarterback 7 on the year, quarterback 9 points per game, 18.2. He is, watch this, point 0.6 points behind Jayden Daniels right now in
That's
points per
wild.
game. It is wild, and this is not something I have seen coming. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
he's had a really cupcake schedule. Tampa Bay, Carolina, Atlanta, the Jets, Baltimore, New Orleans. But hey, man, you got to give the devil his due. To be honest with you, uh,
Well,
God,
I don't think Baltimore's a cupcake schedule by any means, but
their secondary's been bad.
if you look at it, is it a cupcake schedule? Because we thought that Denver was going to be bad to begin with. So
True, for sure.
you know what I mean. So it's like, well, what is it? Maybe they're not as bad as we think they are.
And maybe we
Um,
think Bo's better than we think they are. We
mm-hmm,
think he is. To be honest, like a lot of this is the reason why I brought this up is there was a lot of like back and forth on Twitter the past several days about whether Bo is good or not. His yards per attempt is super low. This, that, and the other thing. That was one point of contention for a lot of people. And then I looked it up. He has I believe, second most deep passing attempts in the league. So you mean
mm-hmm.
to tell me his yards per attempt is low, but he also has the second most deep passes in football? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So this dude's playing within the offense, and it's working. So I just, is he a fantasy? Is he a dynasty? How do I put this? Is he a dynasty QB2 in your mind? Like, yeah. Do you feel safe with him on your roster going forward?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's a 2, but I mean, if you float it out there, like, you could see what you can get, and if you're not too comfortable with him, see what you can get in return. If you can get a first, if you can get a first and a second, that I would easily keep him on my team, just as easy as I would trade him for like a first, especially this year with how deep, or multiple picks, with how deep this draft's going to be.
So I didn't have him as part of the versus segment here, but I'm just going to give you a few names. Would you rather have Bo or let's say Jared Goff? A little bit older of a player on a really good offense. Which would you rather have at this point?
I'd probably go Goff.
You'd go Goff. You feel more safe with Goff.
Yeah, although like I didn't forget that he threw 5 fucking picks.
And then he threw like 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's like, what the fuck is going on? But that offense is so crazy. Like, that offense is so much better than Denver's that I would have to take off.
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It's just impressive to me. Like, we talked about how good Drake Mays looked with the lack of offense. Let's not forget, like, Bo Nix, he has Courtland Sutton, who we both think is a very talented wide receiver.
I love Courtland Sutton, dude.
What's that?
Courtland Sutton is the guy that I wanted to. Did I ask you this already? Like, who's a guy in redraft you take every single year, and it's Courtland Sutton for me. I love Courtland Sutton.
So do I. I like Courtland Sutton too. Unfortunately, Marvin Mims has just been almost non-existent. He did have a touchdown this past week, but Troy Franklin shows up here, there, and everywhere every once in a while. But Bo has been, very impressive to me, and I can't deny the fact that I was low on him before. But you got to admit to your mistakes, and so far, me being low on Bo, which is actually a good slogan there, has come back to bite me slightly.
Yeah, Jesus Christ! What are you, Dr. Seuss? I'm low on Bo, slightly lightly. What the
fuck? I know we talked about this before, but let's refresh this conversation. Sam Darnold, is he going to be a starter in 2025? He's a free agent in 25. The team he's currently on is 8-2, 67.9 completion percentage, 2,387 yards passing, 19 TDs, 10 interceptions, which is pretty high. Do you think he's
throwing the ball out, though?
Yeah, he is. He is. Do you think he's back with them or
my God.
organization?
Sorry, speaking of back, Paul Heyman's walking out. I'm going to lose my fucking marbles.
Rich is
sorry, I got to pause this.
For sure.
Sorry, I got to pause that. What did you ask me? I'm sorry. Does he get it? I'm starstruck right now. Sorry. Does he get another opportunity? Yeah, I always thought he did. Even in the, what was it? When did we talk about this? When they were 4-0 or something like that? I think we talked about.
Yeah, they were really hot.
When he was like in MVP contention, contention and shit. Yeah, I think he does. Where? I don't know. I don't think JJ McCarthy's good. I always
Oh,
thought he kind
yeah,
of like you know what I mean. Like it was just like I think they took him, and this is what a lot of teams do. They take quarterbacks because they feel like they have to take a quarterback. Like they feel like they can't do the Sam Darnold year, or they can't do the even Geno Smith. They took Geno Smith as a backup, and he's been there 3 years. You
true.
know, Tampa Bay took Baker Mayfield as a backup plan, and he's been there for this is second year, third year,
Uh,
and he's
sure, yeah, because Tom retired, what, 2 years, 3 years ago? So, yeah, has to be.
and then he just signed a 3 year extension. So like teams feel like they have to take a quarterback. I feel like that's what they did with JJ McCarthy. Um, can he play in Minnesota? Probably not because they're going to have to start McCarthy.
Hmm. Do,
So
so,
where
do
he
you think he's
goes, I
back
don't
in
know.
Minnesota, or do you think he's on to the next
No,
one?
I think he's on to somewhere. That'd be funny to see. I was thinking, I'm like, where could I make? And I was reading, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. I'm like, could he go to the Jets? I'm like,
Oh,
he came from the Jets.
I can't do that
my
again.
how that, my how the turntables have turned. Where can he go? Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where could he go? Sam Darnold. No, I don't know. New York. Nah, they're
Oakland,
going to take
another
Cam
one.
Ward. Oakland. Everyone's going
Or
to Las
Las
Vegas.
Vegas.
That's what's
I
going
think
on.
this is the second time we've called them Oakland in this because we
Mm-hmm.
do miss the old Oakland days. But he's been good for fantasy. He's QB 12, QB 13 points per game, 17.6, per game. But is he? He's a very solid quarterback too. If you're a rebuilding team or a team that a fringe playoffs and you're at the trade deadline and you're like I need to get some points on my roster. What are you taking for Sam Darnold? Is he 2 seconds worth at this point?
If you think that Sam Darnold's going to push you over to win a championship, sure.
Or if you want to get rid of him, what do you take in 2 seconds or a second and a
Yeah,
half?
that I would take. I would ideally, dude. I would want like 2 seconds or like 2 seconds and a third, because I feel like this draft is so goddamn deep. But like as many picks as I can get this year is what I want.
Yeah, especially for like the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
I think the wide receivers are solid. I don't think outside the top 4 or 5 guys, it's just depth. So
Yeah,
The QBs as a whole is pretty not great outside of Cam Ward and Shador. I got to do some more digging on. I do like Jackson Dart, but I don't think he's like an elite prospect by any stretch of the imagination. So Darnold's going to possibly have a chance to be a starter somewhere and possibly still
yeah.
on the dynasty roster next year as a QB two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's get into our next topic here, and that is Dan Daniels back at it again with 2 bad starts in a row. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, Rich, before they took on Pittsburgh. Back to back QB 24 performances, 9.3 against Pittsburgh, 17.49 versus Philadelphia. That one's not that bad, but he
Mm-hmm.
took on 2 defenses that have been pretty damn good, especially the Eagles and JJ
Right.
Watt. There's nothing
Yeah.
you can say bad about him ever.
Well, he's been retired for 2 years. I would go with T.J. Watt.
TJ Watt. Yeah, sorry. Wrong Watt, brother. Um, but, is this a little bit of a point of concern for him? He's got a mixed schedule coming up. Dallas this week, who probably is going to give him a little bit of trouble just with Micah Parsons. I know their secondary is a little lackluster, but, every once in a while they pop up. Then he's got Tennessee, New Orleans, and Philadelphia. You know, are you a little worried, or you think he's going to, be all right the rest of the way?
So I'm not worried just because I feel like every rookie year is kind of like a learning curve. Like you're going to learn how to play in the NFL and stuff like that. So we're kind of like exceeding expectations, him playing that well. So he's got film out. You know what I mean? Like there's film out on him in the NFL. So am I concerned? No. Do I think he's like leveling out? Yeah. Because he's like been playing, he's played stellar for how many weeks? Now he's had 2 games in a row that he's been bad. So he's been up, down, and I think he'll come back up and kind of find a middle ground where he's going to, level out and play the rest of the year. Do I expect to have like lights out games like that he's had before? No. I think it's kind of he's going to find his way type deal.
Yeah, I think so too. I just we talked about it like I mentioned 2 weeks ago. This was going to be the real test for him, especially with Pittsburgh and then Philadelphia, whose secondary has improved tremendously. Thank you, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't. I'm not really concerned about him at all. I still think, especially if he does well enough, he's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
He's just been so talented. Again, he's also dealing with that rib injury, which I'm sure is still bothering him as a mobile
And
quarterback.
that could be something that's factoring into it as well.
Yeah, because I think it was either the Eagles game or the Pittsburgh game. I remember watching it where they were messing with his ribs a little bit. I don't remember if it was taping it up or anything like that, but it did seem like they were messing with it. So this could be a bit of an issue still. And for a mobile quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be an issue because when your ribs hurt, it's hard to run. And when
Yeah.
you're mobile, you got to be able to run, right?
Even when you're sliding and you're hitting the ground, that kind of that sucks.
So I do think he'll be all right. I still see him as a top 8 quarterback the rest of the way for fantasy, the rest of this season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really concerned. Rich, what would you say if Tyrone Tracy is the Isaiah Pacheco of this past class? The reason I say that, both really late round picks. Pacheco was a 7th rounder. Tyrone Tracy was a late 5th. Both really got hot in the middle of the season, started to take over their roles at running back. Right now, Tracy has at 107, 545 yards, 3 TDs, 5 yards to carry. Pacheco finished his rookie season with 170 yards, 830, 5 TDs, 4.9 yards to carry. I do think Tracy does exceed that, probably just about reaches that 1,000-yard mark, because I did a little bit of math. Since he's took over the role, he has averaged over 90 yards a game, but he did have a game over 145 yards. So he will more than likely than not hit that 1,000-yard mark, just like right on the dot. But these kind of guys, it's year to year where we think, Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th round pick. Do the Chiefs move on from him? Tyrone Tracy, late 5th round pick. Do the Giants move on from him?
Tyrone Tracy, the guy who this is only his 2nd year playing running back.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, so that's a big factor, and that's impressive.
It's very impressive, and the opposite could be said for these two for one reason is the Chiefs have a luxury of taking like a running back high because they've been a very good football team for X amount of years. They could have done that, right? And they haven't done it. The Giants.
They did. They took. I'm sorry to cut you off. They took Hilaire.
Well, that was before.
Was
Pacheco.
Before I know. Was he first round?
Yeah, he was
the last pick.
He was like the last pick. But since Pacheco, we always think that the Chiefs are going to take a luxury pick in a running back, and they haven't done it. The Giants don't have the luxury of taking a running back highly. So do you think, are you concerned at all that Tyrone Tracy is like a flash in the pan? Or do you think he has some dynasty value going forward?
I think he has dynasty value because I think, like I said, this is his 2nd year of being a running back. So this is kind of like wet clay at this point that any coach can kind of, mold him into the player that they want him to be. So it's been working out well since he's been here or been there. So I would definitely take a flyer on him. Right now he's probably going to be high. His price is going to be high. But yeah, definitely, dude. I don't think it's a flash in the pan at all. Especially I think you're going to see his volume increase with Daniel Jones being no more, and Tommy Cutlet's in there. I think you're going to see heavy running from New York.
I need to say something about Tommy Cutlet's real quick because I saw that dude using jarred gravy, and that is very anti-Italian. My grandmother would have had a panic attack if she saw Tommy DeVito using canned gravy. But go on. I'm sorry to cut you off.
I thought, to be honest with you, I thought gravy was brown. I guess it's not.
That's a topic.
I guess it's not. We're not putting no great.
That could be on another versus segment. Is gravy be pasta? Be on pasta as well? And the answer is yes, it can because it also is red. Anywho, I do think Tyrone Tracy is a safe bet for our dynasty rosters. I wouldn't pay a first for him. I know he's getting very, very close to that price. He's getting the heat is picking up. I've been in leagues where somebody wanted 2 seconds and it was a mid-second and then 26 seconds, so that could have been anywhere. That was too rich for me. I'd be at like an early second right now. I might even throw you like a late third if I have it, just to try to win now. But I can't go past that at this point because he was a 5th round pick. That plays in my mind like let's go back in time even a little bit sooner. Damian Pierce was a 5th rounder, I believe. And there were times where people were trying to sell him for 1st-round picks.
Oof.
And look how that could have, played out for you. I do think Tyrone Tracy has shown me, enough that he could still be relevant 2 or 3 years down the line. But I'm not at the point where I could pay a 1st for him. I'm still at the early 2nd. I'll throw you a 3rd too if I'm trying to win. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's really high for him, dude. Because like as you were just breaking that down, and all I'm thinking in my mind is like earlier this year, maybe a couple weeks ago, I tried moving Bucky Irving and or Chase Brown, who I think are way better than him, and like I was getting nothing, no bites, dude,
So
nothing, and it was like,
actually a good question. I put this out a few weeks ago. It was more or less Bucky versus Tyrone Tracy, and Tracy won
really,
that poll. Yeah, but for me, if I were to personally rank the 3 of these guys, it would be Bucky, Tracy, and then Chase Brown. I think like the Chase Brown thing,
I don't
it's
think
been
you like
fun.
him, dude. You
I
don't
don't.
like him, man.
I don't.
I don't
I
know
didn't like,
why.
and that's probably take lock because I didn't really like the film coming out. He's been impressive, but
He's throwing up 25 points a week.
yeah, and it's hard to say. I think if I had Chase Brown, I know we're going a little off topic. I would sell him for whatever you can get for him right now. Whatever, I haven't looked at his price point, but I imagine you can get multiple seconds out of him right now. Um, that Bengals offense is going to be very confusing next year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a topic for another time. But yeah, I think you and I both agree that Tyrone Tracy is a running back to own right now and a guy that we think is safe for
Mm-hmm.
dynasty rosters. Let's get into our versus segment here. Rich, let's go back in time to the early days of the Dynasty Dogs. We're talking early days of the Dynasty Dogs. I believe it was one of our first 2 or 3 episodes. We had a discussion on Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, and both of us pounded our tables for Mike Gesicki, that he was going to be that guy when they both were on the same team together.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out so well for us.
Mm-mm.
The reason why I'm putting these two together is Hunter Henry is currently tight end 9 on the year, for tight end 14, 9.2 points per game, which is solid, especially when a year where tight ends have been rough. Tight end 9 is a good place to be. Mike Gesicki, currently tight end 15, tight end 24 points per game, 7.5 per. My thing is which one of these 2 tight ends, these veteran tight ends, would you rather have on your dynasty rosters? The reason why, again, I put these 2 together is Gesicki's going to be a free agent next year, right? Where could he end up? He has shown some really good flashes in Cincinnati without T. Higgins. He had a monster game where he had over 30 some odd points. That cost me a week, unfortunately. But then Hunter Henry's been steady Eddie this year with Drake May and Jacoby Brissett.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be part of that Drake May offense going forward. Which one of these guys would you rather take a flyer on? Because both of them are worth around a 3rd or a mid to late 3rd at this point in fantasy.
I'm taking Gesicki. Reason being, I think he
You're
comes
doing
back.
it all over again.
I think he's coming back to Cincinnati, and I think Joe Burrow is substantially better than whatever they got cooking in New England. So they seem to
Wow,
find.
better than Drake May, huh?
You don't think so?
Man, I don't
What?
know. Drake
What?
May's looking pretty good. Drake May's looking good
In
without
a half a season of football against a guy who's taking a team to a Super Bowl? No, come on,
Dude, listen, Drake May has looked good with the lackluster talent that he has right now.
that's a hot one there, buddy.
Listen, I'm not saying I would take Drake May over Joe Burrow right this second, but if you were to tell me 2 years down the line from now, Drake May is more valuable than Joe Burrow, I'm going to 100% be okay with that, and I think that's what's going to happen. For me, I'm going to take Hunter Henry. I just, we doubted him. Again, this is the 2nd year in a row. You're doubting him. I can't do it again. I think, obviously, New England's going to make some additions on offense. I don't think they have to worry about the tight end position because I think Hunter Henry is a substantially decent tight end, and he's a guy who can get open for a young quarterback. And what if Mike Gesicki doesn't end up with Cincinnati. What if he ends up in another situation where he was like in Miami, where he had all this athletic talent, that's not even a fucking word, but athletic talent, and they just weren't using him. I think I'd rather play it safe with Hunter Henry because, again, these guys are pretty close to each other fantasy-wise right now.
Scared money don't make no money, dog.
Shut up. I do.
That's what I
Hunter
gotta
Henry
say.
is about 9 months older, which is actually surprising. I did think it was the opposite way. But I do think if I'm a contending team or a team that, could use a backup tight end, I'd rather take the flyer on a Hunter Henry over a Mike Gesicki just because I know where Hunter Henry's going to be next year, and I trust Drake May to get him the football. And that's just the way I look at it.
Okay.
You ready for the next versus one? This one's going to tug at your heart. Actually, I know exactly where you're going with this.
What's it going to tug on?
Your heartstrings. I know it's not. Would you rather have on your dynasty roster 23-year-old Devon Achane of the Miami Dolphins or 27-year-old Saquon Barkley of our Philadelphia?
Saquon Barkley.
Yep, I knew exactly.
He's the best running back. He's the best running back in the NFL. He's not slowing it down. He's doing backwards hurdles. Devon Achane gets hurt going up the goddamn steps. And they got 50 running backs there. They just signed. They just drafted Wright. They have Mostert. They have Achane, who plays whenever he wants to play.
Well, let's not say that. He did get banged up. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
He's Saquon Barkley's second in rushing right now. He is on a 3-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's just go over some quick things real quick. Saquon Barkley is the running back 3 on keep trade cut. Devon Achane is running back 5 on keep trade cut. Barkley right now is running back 2 in both points per game and total fantasy points, 22 points per game. Achane is running back 8, both in points per game and total fantasy points with 18 points per game. I 100% agree with you, though. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley in this situation. Tied to this offense for the next 3 years. A physical specimen when healthy. Like, again, I hopefully we never have to deal with the injury issues that Barkley had early in his career. And I do think being here in Philadelphia helps that quite a bit with a good offensive line, a team that can still throw the ball with 2 offensive weapons in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. But give me Saquon Barkley over Achane, and that's how I have them ranked in my dynasty ranks as well. Saquon is my running back 4 right now, and Achane is my running back 5, and I don't see that changing. I do feel more comfortable in Saquon Barkley. We mentioned the injury things with Achane. Let's not forget, like I mentioned, Barkley did have that injury bug for a while, but
where'd he get those injuries at, dog?
In New York, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
He's been healthy this year, and I'm happy to say it because again, second in rushing.
Knock on wood, dude. Don't fucking jinx it, but I mean, dude, that has a lot to do with that fucking dump that they got in North Jersey, with that fucking that turf that's like been known to tear ACLs and screw up knees like every single year, and they neglect it every single year.
I'm with you though. I would take Barkley over Achane for dynasty purposes. I do think you're probably going to have similar output for both of them. I do trust Barkley more, if that makes sense. Just because Achane has had issues with health, like we mentioned, the past 2 years. He's been in the league 2 years. He's had injuries both seasons. And you mentioned, again, we mentioned all that weapons in Philadelphia, but the Dolphins just keep chugging along with different running backs, like Mostert, Achane,
Jeff Wilson sometimes.
Jeff Wilson, Wright, Jalen Wright. I feel more confident than Saquon Barkley is the number 1 in Philadelphia at running back option. The problem is if this dude gets tackled on the 1 and doesn't get a fucking touchdown out of it every single time, he would be breaking fantasy right now.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that happen? It has to be an astronomical amount.
Yeah.
Last one here I got for you before we get into our player profiles is Ladd McConkey versus Jackson Smith-Njigba. A little bit of shock. It didn't actually shock me. I was a little surprised. Ladd is actually older than JSN. JSN currently wide receiver 14 on keep trade cut. Ladd McConkey wide receiver 18 for the season. JSN 60 receptions, 678 yards, 3 TDs. Ladd McConkey 43 receptions, 615 yards, 4 touchdowns. JSN wide receiver 10 on the season, wide receiver 17 points per game, 14.8. Ladd, wide receiver 18, wide receiver 33, 12.9 yard or 12.9 per game. That number is down, but it has gone up pretty recently. I do think the Chargers have been throwing the ball a lot more recently. Now that Herbert's been healthier, we had that patellar fasciitis injury early on in the season. The Chargers have been throwing it more. Which one of these two wide receivers do you want on your dynasty roster more? Because these are very similarly priced guys right now.
I'm taking Ladd. I have Ladd, but I'm taking Ladd. I just think he's been kind of like seems like steady for Herbert, who seems to be throwing the ball like a million times a game. So
Right now,
even if the yards aren't there, if they aren't giant chunk plays, he's getting the catch points. So I'm taking Ladd.
Yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think both these guys are solid wide receiver twos in fantasy for years to come. I will take Ladd over JSN in this situation. The only reason why I say that is Justin Herbert.
JSN, dude.
I do too. I do, but I'll take Ladd in this situation because I know he's tied to Justin Herbert, at least for the rest of one of their two careers, whoever moves on first, if they ever move on, right? JSN, you got to worry about, is it Geno Smith? Is it Sam Howell next year? Is it another rookie quarterback? I do think the Chargers bring in a boundary wide receiver. Like, the Seahawks right now are using a lot of DK and JSN, right? I do think the Chargers bring in a DK-esque wide receiver, maybe in a T. Higgins, maybe in a Trey Harris from Ole Miss, a big body wide receiver coming into this draft class. I could see that happening, but I still think you're going to get similar output from both these guys. I just trust Ladd more right now, if that makes sense. Great route runners, both of them. I want the guy that's tied to Justin Herbert, who I think is super underrated right now.
I agree.
All right. You want to go into our rookie profiles?
Pull it up there, buddy.
All right. Let me pull up my PowerPoint presentation here. Hold on one second. Let's go to the first screen, and then we'll go back to here, and we will pull up the old PowerPoint presentation. Here is my very horribly done PowerPoint presentation. Tonight, we're going to be talking about two running back prospects for the 2025 class in UCF wide running back, RJ Harvey, and Kansas running back, Devin Neal. Both these guys, I came away very impressed with. I like both these dudes. These are fringe top 10 guys. Either they're going to be at the back end of your 10 or, right outside of your top 10. But these are guys that you want to keep your eye on for your dynasty rosters that you could try to get, we'll talk about it here, third or fourth round, more likely than not. So we'll start with RJ Harvey first. 5'9", 209 is his current listed weight and height. I have him projected as a day 3 pick in the NFL draft. And to me right now, I would say 4th or 5th round pick feels about right. 3rd or 4th round dynasty pick, kind of like I mentioned earlier. I brought the dog score in last year when it came to wide receivers. I'm starting to do that with running backs. This is a very small sample size. 3 games I've watched for him so far. I have a 7.5 for him, something that a very nice score for a guy that I had been watching live this year and just came really impressed with watching him. So let's get into some stats. Last year, 226 carries, 1,416 yards, 16 TDs, 19 receptions, 238 yards, and a touchdown. 2024, I put 2 semicolons there, which is really annoying me. As of right now...
Grammatical, dude.
Yeah. As of right now, 196 carries, 1,328 yards, 19 TDs, 15 receptions, 229 yards, 2 TDs. He's looking like he's going to smash his last year's stats. He is leading the Big 12, the last I saw, in rushing. So let's just look at some of his PFF stats we got here. His rush grade right now is 89.2. Jeez. Yards per attempt is 6.8 a carry, which is insane. Elusive rating, 125.2. He is second in the NCAA in carries of 15 yards or more, and he's their running back 10 on their current big board for their running back rank. It's not their entire big board, but he's their running back 10 in their ranks right now. He did miss his 2021 season with an ACL injury, and we're going to talk about this here shortly. Film review and more. The games I watched on him: Colorado, Iowa State, and I watched the game live. I actually watched it back today against Arizona State. Some pros for RJ Harvey. He's a very shifty runner, has really good footwork, can make you miss in the open field. Contact balance for a guy that is 5'9", 209 is very impressive to me. He's got a strong lower half. He has no problem lowering that shoulder, laying the boom. Bring the boom, as the Costco guys say. Yeah, I had to throw that in there.
Log it off.
And he's a very dependable pass catcher. And this is a guy who's not just running simple dump-offs. He's running wheel routes, angle routes. I am a big RJ Harvey fan, but we do have to talk about some of the cons. His size, obviously, at 5'9", 209. I do think that 209 probably is about accurate. I know we see every single year these guys come in smaller than their listed weights. But I do think he is bulky. So I do think he is going to be a guy who probably is around that size range. Indecisive at times. He is a guy who does like bounce out. I did see somebody on Twitter mention him as a comp to DeAndre Swift, which Swift struggles with that still in the NFL. He does like to bounce it out instead of taking the open lanes. He is an older prospect. I mentioned he did miss his 2021 season with an ACL tear, but this is his sixth season in college football right now. He did originally commit to Virginia as a quarterback in 2019 and then transferred to UCF to become a running back. Since then, he's been very productive when he's been healthy. That he missed that whole 2021 season. 2022 is productive. 23, I showed it earlier. Very productive running back. 24, he's even smashing that. What have you seen? I know you've been digging just a little bit. What have you seen in RJ Harvey so far, Rick?
Yeah, he's got quick feet. I think you're spot on. What did you say? Fourth round pick, right around there. And I feel like that's kind of, where you draft running backs at this point, unless they're, top tier guys. But like I said, if he does indeed enter the draft, he, like I said, the dynasty draft, the rookie draft is deep. This is where you want to acquire picks. You can get a guy like this who can go into a room and, take over the room. So
I would like to see him in Indianapolis, to be honest with you, to back up a Jonathan Taylor.
1-2.
I think he could be a very nice running back, too, in a system just like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is also a guy, Rich, hopefully me and you get to go down to the Senior Bowl. I'm hoping to go back. I'm hoping for you your first year. This is a guy who committed to the Senior Bowl this year. So hopefully keep an eye on him.
Nice.
All right, so next we're going to talk about Devin Neal, running back, Kansas, 5'11", 215, Rich, our area code here in Philadelphia. I do see him as another day 3 pick, 4th or 5th round, more likely than not. Round 3 for Dynasty. And then I have a dog score for him of 7.4. It's still a very early sample for him as well. This is another guy who's been very productive in college. 2023, 203 carries, 1,280 yards rushing, 16 TDs, 25 receptions, 217 yards, 1 TD. By the way, before I mention, he should have came out last year. He would have added a different dimension to this running back class. Not a different dimension. Added some more depth to this running back class that sorely needed it. 2024 stats: 162 carries, 926 yards, 12 TDs, 19 receptions, 169 yards. A solid season so far. He's definitely going to break that 1,000-yard mark again. PFF grades: has a rush grade of 87.1, yards per attempt 5.7, yards after contact 3.72. Elusive rating, which I was a little surprised at, is a little lower than I imagined, 93.9, which is still above average. And he is a running back 14 on their big board. Film review and more. I got a little bit of more film on Devin Neal than I did for RJ Harvey. Games I watched: Illinois, Kansas State, TCU, and my niece's current college, West Virginia. My pro comp for him right now, and this is one that kind of came to me yesterday, is going to be Eric Bray, former Oklahoma running back, who's now the third stringer in the Giants. So hopefully he does have a little bit of a better situation than
Yeah.
Eric Gray does. Some pros I have on him: very impressive footwork, another shifty runner. I took a screenshot of some film I was watching. I believe I sent it to you, where he did a dead leg on a running back, and the running back. I can imagine what the running back's mind was thinking at that time. It was at this moment he knew he fucked up. Devin
Yeah.
Neal has some make you miss ability. Burst, when he hits the hole, he hits it hard, and he's shooting like a rocket. Dependable pass catcher, like the use of his hands. I do think he's a very dependable hands catcher, something you like to see in a running back. And his vision and patience, I didn't think was excellent, but I thought it was very solid. So I do have that as a pro. Some cons for sure is his size. Again, 5'11", 215 yards. 215 pounds. I do think for whatever reason he's going to come in lower than that because he doesn't look that bulky. I could be 100% wrong. And then short yardage and a power runner. Not a guy who's going to get you the short yardage situations or the goal line situations. That could hurt his draft stock slightly. I do think this is another guy who could fill a role as a running back too in a team. Who could carve out a role for himself. Again, maybe a team like I think, to me, honestly, I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think he's better than Will Shipley, so I would like to see him here in Philadelphia kind of take over that role that they have for Will Shipley.
Sure.
I would like to see that. What do you think of Devin Neal, Rich?
He's good. He's a great pass catcher. That's for sure. His screen game's great. And you don't really want him to get in the open field because if you do, he's going to make you miss. So that's all like positive things you want to see in a running back. I would take him here. We really haven't seen much of Will Shipley anyway. So who knows?
He could take that role over, and he doesn't have to worry about being an RB1. Obviously, with Saquon Barkley at the helm for at least for the next 3 years. And with these 4th, 5th round guys, that's kind of what you want, is those dudes that could be, spell your stud running backs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that'll be it for our very quick mini profiles. I do think these guys are going to be higher.
Keep an eye on them.
Yeah, for sure. I think both these guys, especially RJ Harvey, are going to be two guys for me that I'm going to be higher on than consensus, in my opinion. RJ Harvey, I don't find him in a whole lot of like top 10, top 15 ranks anywhere. So I think I'm going to be higher than a lot of people on him. Rich, got any final words for the people? I want to say happy Thanksgiving to anybody?
No, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you again, I guess, soon. I don't know when, but soon.
Yeah, in about 2 weeks, hopefully.
Yeah.
After all the Thanksgiving festivities are over. Well, that'll be it for the Dynasty Dogs. I appreciate everybody who hopped on and watched us. I apologize we weren't able to, answer any comments because this Riverside has kind of screwed us a little bit when it comes to live streaming. But again, for the Dynasty Dogs, you can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good night.
Peace.